Hey MBA695 students, welcome back to the next class, the next LCS course, which is LCS number 5. Here's what we're going to do in this course. This is just a quick overview for you. One, we're going to finish chapter 1, the chapter that you started back in MBA694. We're going to write the IRB application, and then we're going to submit that IRB application to the IRB committee at Spring Arbor University. That's it, pretty much. Finishing chapter 1, writing the IRB application, and then submitting it to the committee, the IRB committee. So for most of you, chapter 1 is nearly done, and it shouldn't be too much more for you to go. That will not be too monumental of a task, I don't think, for most of you. The IRB application, it can be a challenge. It usually takes 2 or 3 submissions to get it past the IRB committee. They're a stickler because they are protecting the university from bad research and bad data collection and that sort of thing. So it just takes a little bit of work to get it through there. My goal, of course, is to get each of you through in 1 submission, not 2 or 3. So that's what we'll be working on. Before I talk about the IRB application some more, let's spend just a few moments talking about where you're at in this LCS program at this point. You have to forgive me, I got a little bit of a cold right now, so it maybe sound a little bit strange. Now, you're in LCS 5 right now, which is the MBA695 course. So again, we're finishing chapter 1, and we're going to write and finish and submit the IRB application. That's LCS number 5. In the next term after this one, in LCS 6, which would be MBA696, you'll work on chapters 2, which is the lit review, and chapter 3, which is the methods chapter. And while you're working on those, the IRB committee will be approving your IRB application. It can take 4 to 6 weeks to have the application approved. So that's why we're going to submit it at the end of LCS 5, MBA 695, and sometime during MBA 696, it'll be approved. Okay? But in the meantime, in 696, we're going to finish chapters 2 and 3. All right, LCS number 7, which is MBA 697, when that term shows up. Once you have IRB approval, you can start doing data collection, and that's what LCS 7 is, or MBA 697. It's all about data collection, and it's starting the draft for Chapter 4. Again, Chapter 4 is the data collection and analysis chapter. In MBA 698, LCS number 8, you finish Chapter 4, and you do that by finishing up the analysis that you write about in Chapter 4. And then finally in LCS number 9, or MBA 699, this is Chapter 5, you work on conclusions and recommendations, and you do a presentation to your host organization. Okay, with that done, you'll be done with the whole course. You'll be done with your research. And listen, you're going to make it. You guys are doing great, so no worries. We just have some work in front of us, but we'll get it done. You can pull up the roadmap, by the way. I'll have it attached to the announcement that goes out, and the LCS roadmap, and you can kind of follow your way along in that roadmap as well, from what I was just talking about. All right, so now back to the IRB approval. The IRB approval, it's your ticket to start data collection. Again, as I've said before, you cannot start data collection and research at Spring Arbor University until the IRB is approved. And this is pretty typical of all universities who do research. Okay, so once your IRB is approved, and that'll happen during MBA 696, all right, then you can start collecting data. And over the next couple of weeks or so, I'll get with you. We'll make a Zoom appointment. I'll get with you, and we'll go through how to write the questions that you're going to have to write, and the informed consent and that sort of thing. All that is part of the IRB application. So, as part of the IRB application, we are going to have to develop that informed consent document. That's the document that your participants are going to sign before you start the research with them. And then the data collection instrument itself, or the questions that you're going to ask. All that is part of rolled up into the IRB application as appendices. So, okay, and I'll give you some examples of those later on as we get into it. I'll give you some references to look at or some templates to look at that'll help you along with that. And make sure you involve me in writing your questions because I think it can help with that quite a bit. So there'll be good questions for you to work on or to ask your participants, and you'll get data out of them that you want to get. All right, so I think that's it for right now. I'm not going to burden you with too much more data other than just what we've talked about. So again, just a quick review of 695, where we're at right now. You're going to finalize Chapter 1, which should be fairly easy for most of you at this point. The second thing is we're going to write the IRB application, which includes the informed consent document and the data collection instrument, the surveys and the questions. And then third, at the end of this term, we're going to submit all that to the IRB. All right, and when the IRB happens during 696, after that happens, then you can start collecting data. So, okay, listen, have a great day or a great evening whenever you're listening to this, and look forward to working with you in your research in this upcoming term. All right, see ya.